Hello everybody. In this video it's going to be about engine removal. If you watched my previous video, you'll know that I have a clonking noise on the gearbox, and in order to remove the gearbox I have to remove the engine first. So this video is going to be engine removal. The next one after this will be gearbox removal and then inspection, stuff like that. So to get started, I'm going to drop the oil. Probably it's a good idea to change the oil now, so I'm going to drop the oil first and then we'll start taking the engine out. Okay, let's get on it. Okay, looking underneath the car, it's quite simple to drop the oil. You basically have this cover plate. Not all cars have this center bolt where you can drain the oil from, and so if it doesn't, you have to undo all of these. So first I'll take this off, let the oil drain, and then take this whole cover plate off because you have the gauze filter underneath. So we take all of that out, drop all the oil, and yeah, we'll go from there. Okay, so with a 21mm spanner, I'll remove this drain plug, and then with 10mm socket, I'll then remove these 6 nuts. Okay, unlike the gearbox, the sump plug doesn't have a magnet on there, but usually the heavier gunk will go to the bottom anyway, but there's nothing on the end of this, so that's all good news. So we'll just let this drain. I think there's only 2.5 litres in a standard 1200, so I have a 5-litre container, so we should be safe. We'll see. Yes, look at that, exactly half. It's still trickling out, but it's almost stopped. Like I mentioned in the last video I did with the gearbox, always check your oil for any sparkly bits, you know, from any metallic wear and stuff like that. And also when you remove the cover plate where the gauze filter is, always check for lumps of stuff that shouldn't be in there, you know, and because that will indicate that your engine is a bit worn or even broken. Okay, it's pretty much stopped draining, so I'll just put this plug back in temporarily. I will change the copper washer when I put it back on. So I just put it there so I don't lose it, and then I will undo these 6 nuts. And then this should just pry off like that. There'll be a little bit of oil on it, so just give it a quick wipe and check to see if there's any gunkiness. It's actually not too bad. There's no sparkly bits or anything like that, so that's good. And now you just remove the gauze filter. Inspect this. And it looks pretty good, so I'll give this a good clean up, just with some brake cleaner or something like that, and remove this old gasket. Always replace these, and yeah. Okay, so I won't put it back on because I only found 1 gasket and I need 2 in my parts But I have actually ordered some, another set the other day. I always like to keep some stock in. Obviously, I'm out at the moment, so I'll continue taking the engine out. I'll pick up the stuff from the post office on the way home tonight, and I'll just put it back on when the engine's ready to go back in. So let's crack on. Okay, so hopefully without getting oil dripping on my head, and while the car's still up in the air, there's basically 4 nuts that attach the engine to the gearbox. So you can see there's one there, and there's one there that you undo from underneath. And also your starter motor is here, and there's a bolt that goes all the way through the starter that you can get from inside the engine bay, and then there's another one at the top on this side that you also get from the engine bay. So I'm going to undo these 2 first, and then lower the car down, and then have a look at what needs to be removed up the top. Okay, with those 2 M10 nuts removed with a 17mm spanner, I'm going to lower the car down and let's look in the engine bay. Right, let's see what's happening under here then. What do I need to remove? Okay, so accelerator cable is one of them. So it actually threads through the fan shroud, which is this thing, which houses the fan that cools the engine. So this just has a little screw on the side, and then you pull the cable through. And what else do I need to take off? I'll take this off just to give me a little bit more space. Probably unnecessary, but I'm going to do it anyway. And then I also need to remove the wiring from all the various places. It goes to the coil and to the voltage regulator here. So I'll take those off. This piece of tinware needs to come off, and also this cover for the pulley. So a few things to take off. So I'll start with the accelerator cable, I think, because that is something that is quite often forgotten. So you start taking the engine out and it won't come out, and it's because of the you've forgotten to take this off. So I usually start with that, so then I don't forget. So let's get cracking. One thing that's actually really important is you should always disconnect your battery. I actually have a kill switch for the battery, so every time I park my car I actually disconnect the battery, because you never can be too sure with these old cars if the wiring's a bit old, or you know, if there's a fault that you don't know about. It's a potential fire hazard. So that's and of course when you are removing these big cables from that go directly to the battery, they could short on the body, and then you know, you could potentially have a fire. So that's something that's really important. Okay, with those things removed and set aside, maybe I could put a cable tie or something to move these out the way. This tinware is gone. The next thing I have to do is disconnect the fuel line. So, like I've mentioned in previous videos, this is not an ideal place to put your fuel filter. I mentioned in the last video the reason I have it here is because the tank in this car had lots of rust dust in the bottom, and it was forever clogging up the carb and everything, and I had to keep changing the filter until it had cleaned, and I cleaned the tank out so many times, but it's clear now. So yeah, that's the reason why it's here, so I could see when it was running clear. So I'm actually going to move this filter underneath next to the gearbox. Okay, so what I have here is a hose clamp. It's made of plastic, and you just put this on the hose, obviously, at the pinching end, and then you move this, I don't know, collar thing up, and it holds it in place and stops the fuel coming through the pipe. Okay, there, we were successful. So I put the clamp on the fuel line and managed to catch all the drips from the filter. So the filter will be changed. You can see that there's still some dirt in there, so I'll put a new filter on. Another really important thing is, and I think it's the cause of a lot of engine fires on many cars and Volkswagens, unfortunately, is modern fuel doesn't get on very well with rubber hoses. And even though these modern rubber hoses should withstand modern fuels, I found that within like months of installing new hoses that they start cracking and drying. And what happens, because they're moving around or potentially moving around and vibrating, they crack and then they leak. So it's really, really important to inspect your rubber hoses every time you do some maintenance and stuff like that. And I can see even on the end of this, maybe you can't see on the camera. I don't know if that's in focus, I can't see. But there's actually cracks on the end. And I know for a fact I changed all of these. When did I build this car? Probably finished it like 2 years ago. So this is just 2 years and I haven't used this car much at all. So there's something you really have to be careful of. Just change them. It's really cheap to buy hose, and yeah, just change them. So I will change these. And another thing is a good thing you could do is put a bolt in the end of this and then tighten this back up. And then for any reason this pops off, you're not going to spill fuel everywhere. You know, if I'm pulling the engine out and this comes off, then it could potentially spill the fuel everywhere. So I'm going to do that just as safe practice. I'll put a bolt in there, tighten it up. And then the next thing to do is the same as the 2 bolts on the bottom of the engine that I took off earlier. There's 2, hold on, let me get a torch. There we go. You can see behind there's another nut, and the same on the other side. The camera there's another one. So this one on the right hand side goes through the starter motor, and that one can spin around. So there is a special tool with a magnet you can get, which I don't have, or I use a pair of mole grips and I grip the other end of the bolt, and then it stops it from spinning round. Okay, normally I'm taking engines out on the floor, but it's a luxury to have this lift at work. And also I'm going to use this table that you can adjust the height and pump it up, so it makes life so much easier. So before I remove those other 2 nuts, I'm going to just take a little bit of weight off with the table. Number two, right, I'm going to pull the accelerator cable out now from underneath, and then I think we're ready to wiggle the engine out. Okay, you can see there I just wiggled it and pulled it free. Hold on, I'll just get my light. So you can see that the engine has come apart from the gearbox there. There's nothing caught in the way except for the fuel pipe. So now it's at that stage. I'm going to clamp the fuel pipe here and then pull it through, and then I can take the engine out. Okay, I'm actually going to cheat a little bit because I'm going to move the fuel filter to a different location underneath. I'm going to cut the pipe, so I'm actually going to use these. These are really handy. These are actually for cutting plastic pipe, like water pipe and stuff like that, but they work excellent on rubber hoses because they cut them really nice and straight and sharp. So I have moved the clamp back here, and then I'm just going to snip this off, and there'll be a little bit of fuel, a little trickle there, nothing much. So now I can pull this length out the way like that. That's going in the bin. So there we go, easy peasy lemon squeezy. Engine out. Yeah, obviously it is so much easier with the lift and with this table, because I'm usually jacking the rear of the car up as high as I can, so the engine clears the bottom of the apron here. So to be able to lift the car up that high and is just, yeah, just makes life so much easier. But there we have it. There's the engine. It's out. I might give it a little bit of a clean up actually. One more thing I will add. It's always a really good idea to cover your carb, because you don't want any nasty stuff going down there, because it will get sucked into the engine and do some damage. But in this case, I'm just going to get the oil filter and clonk it on there so nothing falls in there. Be careful, because these actually have oil inside them. It keeps the filter lubricated and stops any bigger particles and dust, or sorry, smaller particles going through. So it will spill out if you're not careful. So there we go. Another reason why I love these old Volkswagens. They're so well engineered and thought out. And I mean, what other car could you remove an engine in? Well, I don't know how long it's taken me. It takes longer, obviously, with the filming, but I think you could probably get this out in under half an hour. One thing actually I'll add is something that I always do, is always take lots of photographs with your phone, because now we have mobile phones with a camera. It makes your life so much easier if you just take pictures of everything. Like the wiring, for instance, you know? Then you don't even have to think or look up on the internet where they go. If you check all your photographs, you know exactly where they go. And it's the same with all these nuts and bolts, you know? Unless you've done this 100 times, it's easy. If the engine's been out for like a few months or something like that, if you're waiting for parts, you're never going to remember where everything goes when it's time to put it back in. So yeah, that's also something I always do. But yeah, there we go. Engine out. Next stage, gearbox out. But that's for the next video. I hope you like it. I hope it was informative. Let me know what you think. Let me know if I've missed anything out, or if something you want me to go over in a bit more detail. Please like and subscribe. I'm really appreciating the support I'm getting. Lots of really nice comments. And yeah, so until the next episode. Cheers. Bye.